Welcome everyone to Everyday Passions, Heart-Centered Conversations. Have you considered starting your own business but view it as an investment in time and money with no guarantee of success? Today, my guest, Kelly Daubach, will challenge your preconceived ideas of business ownership and offer you a true opportunity to understand what it's all about. Welcome to Everyday Passions once again. Each week I'm joined by a successful business owner, a successful and heart-centered business owner who shares his or her passion in business and how they've used this passion to impact the lives of others. And today, my guest, as I mentioned earlier, is Kelly Daubach. She's an executive business coach, and Kelly will share how she helps others to go from corporate executive to business owner. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you, Yvonne. It's a pleasure to be here with you today on such an incredible topic at this point in time.
Wonderful. I'm grateful to have you here with me. So Kelly is an executive coach for new business owners. She has a background of 15 years as a distinguished sales and operational executive. And as a former vice president of business development, Kelly has generated over 100 million in organic revenue attributed to her niche in business development, sales training, and solution selling. So Kelly comes with a wealth of experience from the corporate world, which she has now transferred to being a business owner. So if you're joining us live, we're delighted to have you. If you're going to be watching the replay later on YouTube or wherever it may be, or as a podcast, we're excited to have you do that as well. So Kelly, would you share something personal about yourself so that we can get to know you a little bit better?
Absolutely. Yvonne, something personable about me is that I really, truly love the study of healing in mind, body, and spirit. As we are leaders in any aspect of life, I love the constant idea of self-improvement, new things from sound baths to triathlon racing, acupuncture, to the healing power of plants. It's so incredible to live in a day and age that we do with all of the modalities of health at our fingertips. But it can also be overwhelming at times. I will say from a level of a lens of experience that I made a recent self-discovery, and that in anything in life, if we believe that we come from a perspective of need from any aspect, there can be an unintentional intention of codependency. And so I share that with the lens now of true enjoyment and realization that I and you and anyone that is whole and complete, and we are not broken. So now I do it again through the lens for more of experience, learning, and the journey.
Wow, that is powerful. That is pretty powerful. And you know, all of what you said, what I loved about and what I took away from that is that you love to be on the course, or you stay on the journey of self-improvement, self-development. And I think that's something that we all want to be on, because the world is constantly changing. So we need to remain in that cycle where we're developing ourselves as we go. So thank you for sharing that, Kelly. And you spoke something about health. There were three things you mentioned, I think. Three areas or three dynamics that you mentioned about health, wealth, and what was the other?
The healing in the areas of mind, body, and spirit. Mm-hmm. And so it's, really creating that alignment, because I've been able to attune myself to increased awareness around each of those components. And so when I'm feeling a little out of balance or wobbly, if you will, I can quiet my place of being and recognize if that balance or that sense of out of balance is coming from which of those areas. And I think then from there, I can begin to look in my tools and techniques and practices of how to allow myself to get back on course.
Mhm. Excellent, thank you. So with this knowledge about what you enjoy personally and the modalities that you take advantage of, the healing of the mind, body, and spirit, those are the personal things. So what is one of the things that you're truly passionate about in your business? Can you share that with us?
Yes, Yvonne, absolutely. I am truly most passionate about the ability to build something out of nothing. True creation in the most raw and simple form. The immense power of pure potentiality of all that is and all that can be. When I look back on my life and I reflect on what was created out of indoctrination, community, collective consciousness, beliefs, and then I look at what was created out of my true creative power, it's really inspiring and just eye-opening to see the ideas and the new creations that come versus just recycling the old. And so we are living in the contemplative era in which we have an enlightened awareness to decide if we will repeat what we've been taught or do what we've been told or perhaps study history, or if we are creators of a new. And all of us will be some combination of both. But as a collective consciousness, we have established a limiting belief that I am really kind of coming head to head with and where I'm at in my professional journey, that we have to make sacrifices. We have to go to college, we have to get advanced degrees, climb ladders, be away from home, travel across the world, travel across the country, deal with toxic cultures, bureaucracy, all in exchange for what we're chasing, which is freedom. So ironically, after I had spent 15 years doing just that, I got to the top and I said, whew, what a relief, I'm here. Where's my celebration? I'm thought of where I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And a feeling that I couldn't have predicted in a million years is that feeling to do more was still there. I felt a lack of satisfaction. And on top of that, I felt guilty for having it all, but desiring more. So tying it back to my passion in business, my passion, my unquenchable desire to build more is to create businesses out of nothing from a place of pure potential consciousness.
Okay. With that, let me just pause for a moment and share, if you're just joining us, that my conversation today is with Kelly Daubach. She's an executive coach, and Kelly is sharing how she reached, at this point, she's sharing how she reached the pinnacle of her corporate life, yet she didn't feel the sense of satisfaction that she thought she would have. And this prompted her to look for more. So now we go back, Kelly. After this feeling that there is still some emptiness there, this lack of satisfaction that you'd reached, you've done everything that you should have done, and you should be very happy at this point. So you now decided to pivot or to make a change. So based on what you've shared about your passion in business, when was it you discovered, or how was it that you really discovered that this was a true passion for you, that is to start something from nothing, where you basically you're giving birth to a business then? So how or when did you discover this was really a passion for you?
I think I discovered it was truly my gift and my passion last year when I was deciding where to focus my skills and who I was going to serve in my coaching and consulting business. Looking back, as we do in reflecting on how we, develop our passionate business ideas and business niches, I realized since I had been first employed at the age of 24, I had a top performing territory in the country. I was promoted to flag and open 25 new territories from California to New York to Florida to Georgia to Texas and beyond. And I didn't consider myself to be anyone special or have any secret sauce. I simply had an intention to help others get what they want and a follow through to execute what I had learned from my mentors, managers, and coaches. So I never really overthought building a business. I never really realized what I was doing until I reflected back on it. It just seemed to be so natural to want to help others in healthcare, which was one, improving patient care, and two, increasing the earnings for my organization.
So far, amazing success. So you wanted to improve the earnings in your organization, but then the satisfaction was still not there. So now, what kind of created that pivot where you decided, look, I'm here in my business, and I'm not happy. There's more to life. There's more to it than this. So how did you make that change to starting a business for yourself?
Yes. So I think it was identifying my skills from both an IQ, when I would say, my 15 years of building businesses, and also my gifts from an EQ. So I say, mind, body, and spirit. See, everyone seems to have a preconceived notion of what it takes to start a business. It's either too hard, I don't have a purpose or passion, I don't have enough training, I don't know if people will buy from me, I'm not a salesperson, or what can be the devil of all devils, which is Googling it. So my passion has really allowed others to see that they can build any business that they dream of. And in fact, if anyone can have anything they want, then passion is the first component. And the second component is to have a really solid plan. For a plan, I mean a business plan, a sales plan, a financial plan, a marketing plan, a funding plan, and the list goes on. These are the skills that I learned over the past 15, 16 years that allow me the depth and experience to serve the now entrepreneurs and new businesses the capabilities to succeed. The strange reality is that the skills I rely on most in building a business is something I didn't learn in school, right? We think, we need an MBA, a PhD, keep going and going and going. But I would say the step one in the passion and the step two in the skill set and the how to blends together. So you have your IQ and your EQ. Mm-hmm. And everyone's is different. Yvonne is different than Kelly, is different from George and Sam. All of our skills are different, but the important component that you get out of it is what I like to call the MyQ. And by knowing MyQ, you can determine what assets you need specifically for your business, because you're going to be able to know where your gaps are.
I love that. Of everything you've said the past, say the 30 seconds, that is it. Your MyQ, the IQ, the EQ are all good. They're all essential. But when you know your MyQ, then as you rightly said, you can know where your gaps are. Mm-hmm. And you can fill those gaps. Or get a coach like you to assist in filling those gaps, but you have to know what they are. And I love the fact that you mentioned passion first. And yes, we need that plan. We need that financial plan. We need that business plan. And even if I sometimes share this with my clients and even on these interviews, even if you don't have the 100-page business plan, but at least you should have a marketing plan, some kind of structure as to how you're going to be creating this business. Who are you going to be serving? How are you going to serve them? So at least you have a basic foundation. So thank you for emphasizing that. So you've shared a lot, Kelly, and you talk about your passion, helping to start something from nothing. So you have covered it to some extent, but how would you say that since you have transferred to starting your own business and helping others to shift from the corporate to becoming business owners, how has this passion that you have impacted the lives of others?
I think in impacting the lives of others, it's sharing my story, sharing what I've learned along the way, and telling the tale. So if I may, Yvonne, I'd love to tell my version of the tale of the CEO inside the corporate executive.
Sure, go ahead.
Here goes. The CEO is restless inside the shell of the corporate employee they have outgrown. They lash out in unsettled desire and yearning for more. Maybe it's sleepless nights, anxiety, numbing the sensation, frustrating board meetings, another video conference. They doubt and question the daily grind of their current self, yet they continue to exceed expectations, only to punish themselves for the lack of freedom and fulfillment at the end of each business day. When the CEO then meets their guide or mentor, they light up to a level that shifts beliefs that they have to keep doing things the same way over and over as a means to an end. Retirement. The guide gives the CEO a plan, a step-by-step blueprint, tells them what to expect. At this point, the CEO discovers that there is a tangible, tactful, and practical ways to make their dream a reality. Now that there is a clear path, the cost of staying where they are as a corporate executive will cost them their happiness and the constant wonder if they could do what others had done. They realize there is a choice, but really more than a choice, an allowing of who they are meant to be to continue to become. They know they will not fail as their path is unfolding. All they have to do is receive it. They know getting better understanding of who they are will accelerate their path and also experience learnings and bumps along the way. All the while, the CEO and the corporate executive realize together they are receiving the gift in which life's journey is, and that is coming into who they are meant to be.
Fantastic story. And I'm sure that when you share that with the CEO who is trapped in the corporate environment, that it helps them to see that they can enjoy freedom. They can enjoy the freedom that they truly desire. Is that what you have found, Kelly?
Yes, and this is actually the first public release of that story. So I will be enlightening and sharing and tuning it, but it certainly was from the core creation of the version of me as a CEO.
Lovely. Lovely. Thank you for sharing that. And we're honored that you chose this platform to share that for the first time. I would ask you to read it again, but we don't have time for that. But one of the things that I took away, you started out talking about freedom. And I hear freedom again in that story. And that is what people really aspire for. Freedom is so many different ways, because the opposite of freedom is trap, slavery, being like caught in the corporate wire, so to speak. It's kind of like an animal that's trapped. And not entrepreneurship, being a business owner is not for everyone. But then I love the fact you are willing to show how they can make that transition and be the guide that takes them through. So Kelly, as we wrap up, is there any point, any one thing you'd like to leave our audience with today?
Yes. One point is that you had mentioned it's not for everyone, and it's not. But I have uncovered some really powerful statistics that by 2028, 50% of our workforce will be freelance. And that may be freelance employed by corporations, but it's freelance to determine how they spend and earn their own living.
Mm-hmm.
So understand that that statistic is real. It's not Kelly news. And consider this shift and decide which way you'd like to pave your path.
Excellent. Thank you. So as we wrap up today, how can anyone get in touch with you if they want to do so?
Yes, people can connect with me by visiting my website, which is www.anucoaching.com, or send me an email at coachkelly@anucoaching.com. And Yvonne, anyone listening to this podcast, I'm so grateful for the audience and for the listeners. I will offer a free business ownership readiness assessment to help determine that MyQ and where the idea may be and where the skill set may be to decide if they are ready to become a CEO of your business, your vision, and your freedom.
Thank you, Kelly, for that generous offer. So it's a free business ownership assessment, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for that offer. And thank you for being here. I really enjoyed our conversation at this high level that we went. And it makes sense because, you're dealing with individuals who are accustomed to bearing a lot of responsibility, but at the same time, they want to enjoy some kind of freedom. And it may not be where they are. So talk to Kelly, get in touch with Kelly. If you have a desire at all, you're questioning, she's been there. She can help you. Have a conversation with Kelly and schedule a free business ownership assessment. Reach out to Kelly by email, and then she can send you her calendar link or however you do it, Kelly. But thank you again for being here. And for our viewers, once again, thank you so much. If you're watching the replay, please go ahead and type in #replay. We appreciate you. And again, I am Yvonne A. Jones, your host, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Yvonne.
You're so welcome, Kelly, and thank you.